Hello and welcome back. So we are going to go through our weekly analysis for the Euro, DXY and GBP from my perspective. So let's start with the Euro because I think it's a bit easier to analyze. I like to start with the monthly normally I start with the the weekly, but sometimes I like to zoom out and see where we are in the monthly, and then I drop down to the weekly. But the weekly and the daily hold more power for me, unlike the monthly. So for the monthly, it's just to know when the higher time frames reversals are going to take place and stuff like that. So here on the monthly, I've been seeing that we are currently on a downtrend. You see this one, and again this one, and we've not been able to come and take this. So I was looking for this fair value gap to be mitigated on the weekly, and then we can start having our bearish reversals, but we are yet to see any reversals take place on the monthly. Okay, so what I would have wanted to see is mitigate this fair value gap and then create a market structure shift. But on the monthly, we see no market structure shift. So that tells me that we are yet to start being bearish. We are still too early for the bearish trend. Yes. And so let's see where we are on the weekly. So because here, for market structure shift to happen, we need this to be taken, this low to be taken and create a fair value gap. And we see this has not happened here. So we are still not going to cancel out our bias. We are not going to stick to one bias yet. On the weekly, we see that now we break down those tiny structures. On the weekly, we see we are forming a higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, lower low. Okay, lower low, but we are still forming higher highs here. We are still forming higher highs. So here, remember, we are still very early on the bearish trend, and in as much as we have this is a market structure shift on the weekly. We are still I wanted to see price mitigate this and start selling, but instead it created a counter market structure here. You see this tiny swing has been broken with a fair value gap. So that means even if we were buying, even if we were ready for a sale, we are still very, very early, because this is another micro. You know, we have macro and micro market structures. So this one is our current, this was our first confirmation that maybe we are going bearish. But since we formed this little swing here and it was broken with a fair value gap, we are still kind of bullish. Okay, we cannot be certain that we've started our bearish trend. So we are still uncertain of the bearish, but we are currently in the bullish phase. We are still in the bullish phase. Okay, so we can start marking out our little structures. So this is our next liquidity. You can see this is target 1 liquidity. and we mitigated this, so we might be looking to come here. We can take this and maybe form a another market structure or lower high here, and then once we break this low here with the fair value gap, we can be sure now that we are going to start selling. Okay, so here we just note this down. So with this micro market structure shift, because I like to the macro, the bigger macro is bigger. Market structure shift is one that takes out a swing high and it makes a market structure shift with the fair value gap. But this one is internal shift. You see, this is an internal shift, and instead of making this and coming to take this low, it created a higher low. Yes, higher low and higher high and higher low again. So we can expect this one to be taken. And so let's just mark out here. We can mark out this as our prior week high. And prior week low. Then let's go on our daily and see how the market structure shifts are looking like. So here as well, you can see it took this low, and instead of just mitigating or taking this and taking this high and coming to take this, it created a higher low and took this higher high and created another higher low here, mitigating this fair value gap. So we are looking for a higher high. Okay, so this week we are going to be looking for bulls until one of our liquidity zones are hit, and then once they are hit, we can go to the 1 hour and look for reversals for sales. So don't stick to one bias for until it hurts you. Okay, if you see an indication of reversals, just jump in. Okay, so that is good, that is nice. So here, once today makes its close, now we can plot out. You know, I don't trade on Mondays because Mondays tend to give you the overview, the outlook of how the week is going to be. So we have to wait for this candle to close to know where we are at and where we are headed. So tomorrow we are just going to mark out our sell side and buy side, and then liquidity, once liquidity is taken, we can enter the trade. Okay, so let's go to the DXY. The DXY is the sister to EURUSD, so mostly they are doing similar things, very, very similar, but they are cousins with Gbpusd. So here, as you can see here, we were making high. This is our range on the monthly, and according to the order flow, you can see we are currently bearish. Yeah, we are currently bearish on the one bearish. We are currently here. Sorry. This is our range. We've mitigated this, and you see order flow. We are making fair value gaps going down But remember, I would have wanted to see a reversal and continuation of this trend on the monthly. Maybe a mitigation of these two, and then maybe look for a buy. But we are very, very early in the buy trend. Very, very early. Okay. And we cannot be certain that we are buying because we needed to see something hit and then market structure shift on the monthly. So right now I can say we are still bearish on the monthly. Bearish on the monthly because we are yet to see a reversal for the continuation of this bullish trend. So yeah. See, we took this again, these highs, took all this, yeah, these liquidities. So the liquidities that haven't been taken yet is this. Weekly liquidities. Can write that there. This one has not been taken. This one has been taken. And now, the reason I'm saying we are still bearish on the DXY, you see, it took this liquidity and insinuated that we've reversed. But as we are coming to mitigate this fair value gap, we made a micro shift, a micro structure shift here. Okay, we broke this low and made a fair value gap. So that tells us that we are still bearish. Okay, this is our current structure. We are still bearish, but we will be on the lookout in case trend changes. Okay, so this is a prior week high and prior week low. So we'll be anticipating a bearish candle this week. But if trend changes, we will be on the lookout. Okay. Okay, now on the daily, just see the order flow. We mitigated this fair value gap here. We've mitigated these ones. We've mitigated this. We've mitigated this micro fair value gap as well. So we are definitely coming down. I think this is perfect. So we wait for today's close and then we can know whether we are going to wait for a buy side liquidity or sell side and then enter off of market structure and a fair value gap for the sales. I think that is it. Yes. On the GBPUSD, let's see. GBP is usually quite different from these two, but it's the best to take trades off. So on the GBP on the monthly, you can see we are selling, but making higher highs, higher highs, higher lows. See, higher highs, higher low, higher high. It also made the higher high, higher low, higher low. So we are anticipating a higher high. So we can say this is our next area of liquidity. Although it had already taken this, but let me just write it. Monthly liquidity. You see on the GU, it's easy to analyze once you've analyzed EU and DXY. So we are making higher. So that means that we are yet to make a reversal, to start hinting that we are reversing. Okay, so this is our next liquidity. On the weekly, it's very clear that we've made a higher high. This is lower than this. This is higher high. And then instead of making a lower low, like we would have anticipated if the trend had started reversing, it made a higher low, sorry. So we are anticipating maybe a higher high or something of the sort. And you see we've been very bullish in the previous weeks. So here, prayer week high, prayer week low. You see they all make similar things, because even this one, it's a kind of a market structure shift as well. See? So on the daily, it's more clear. On the daily, we are still bullish. See? Higher low, higher high. You can say this is a higher low. This is a higher high. This is another higher low. So we are anticipating a higher high. As simple as that. And these ones can be our targets. These ones. This one can be our target. T1 until it starts reversing, yeah. This can also be our next target before reaching the monthly liquidity. This can also act as a profit-taking areas. T2. This can also be another target. T3. But remember, we need to be very, very alert for when market structure decides to change. Okay, we are not just going off that we are buying and ignoring everything else. Okay, so this is it. We'll be looking for today close, where we are going to close, and then we can decide from tomorrow what we are going. Are we going the entry points for our buys? And watching out as well for any early reversals that we can also get into. Other than that, have a wonderful and fruitful week.